Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another Tuesday discussion. Here on Tuesdays, we do like to respond to questions and comments we're getting from either Instagram, YouTube, or from our wonderful Patreon community. And it seems to be the topic that is on people's minds is all about the end of the bourbon boom. What does that even mean? How does it end? What are we even leading ourselves into? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Got a few different takes, a few different things that I'm seeing, a few different angles that I haven't heard people take thus far. And I'm also, of course, curious on your opinions on this subject. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. As we go through this, I actually got a blind pour in front of me as well. So I'll be exploring this and kind of dabbling in it as we go in the different topics here. But what we're talking about today is going to be the bourbon boom. What does it even mean? Will it even impact you? I mean, that's the thing I kind of think about the most. Now, I do know who it's impacting right off the bat because I have definitely seen a change in behaviors on, let's say, the secondary market. Seems like prices have gone down. Man, maybe 20% in some cases is what I'm seeing. And it feels like a lot of people are just really selling off their inventory, almost like it's a hot potato or something. I'm still unsure if people are just moving it because they feel a sense of the equity going down in the bottles as there's less buyers, or if they're just kind of moving on from the hobby after maybe being in it for 5 years or a decade. And they've collected so much that I know a lot of people are like, man, I can't even drink everything that I've got bunkered in a lifetime. So what do you do with it at that point? You got to move it, but now you're trying to move it in a soft market. So very, very interesting there to see what's going on. I will say there's been a couple things that I've seen where I was just like, wish I had an extra $1,000 lying around because I could get myself like 3 or 4 of the MGP single barrels that I love from that particular era, 2005 to 2008. You know, I love sniping those. But alas, not going to do that. I actually got a confession here. I have yet to buy a bottle in 2025. So if that's a sign of the bourbon boom and the slowing market, I don't know what is. It is January, though. January is slow time. All right, let's get to this pour here. Man, right off the nose. Real buttery. I'm not sure what type this is. This might not be a bourbon. It's not a rye either. Maybe it's a wheat whiskey. It's real soft and light and real buttery. I'm going to go in for a sip. That does not clarify anything else. So, yes, buttery. I think it's a wheat whiskey. That'd be a very strange sample to be in there. So, moving on to the next topic. One thing I do see people saying is like magically there's going to be all this stuff on the shelves again. Now, I have seen people posting like shelves of Stag, which mystifies me because that ain't happening in the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana areas yet. But maybe there are some bottles that will hit the market if there aren't any secondary equity in those bottles anymore. But I really don't think that's the case. It just does seem like there's certain areas around the country that are getting a whole lot of bottles. But don't expect anytime soon that BTAC is just going to be lying on the shelves. So even if we're in the midst of the end of the bourbon boom and maybe there's even a little bit of a retraction, let's just say there were 100,000 obsessed whiskey drinkers around the country hunting this stuff, and it declines by like 50%. So there's 50,000 obsessed whiskey drinkers out there. If that release comes out and there's still only 10,000 bottles and it's at a price that all those people are willing to pay, your chances of getting one went up, but it's not going to be just lying on the shelves. So there is a difference between just increasing your odds versus it just being there. Don't expect that. That's not what's going to happen here anytime soon. especially for the well sought after things. What I am seeing though is that people are not buying things sight unseen or untested. The old granddad 16 year is a good example of that. Something that I've now started to see being discounted at the $140 to $150 range that a lot of us were saying it probably should have been there in the first place, just like the Hardens Creek releases. The other thing that came up in the discussion is like, why is it ending? Is it just people feeling the fatigue? Is it people feeling just the financial pressure of keeping up with the hobby? Is it the space? Hey, I had no floor whiskey in 2024. That was one of my goals. That should be one of your goals too. No floor whiskey. But people ran out of space. They just had more than they could really get through. But the other thing that I see going on out there, a lot more conversations about health. Maybe people just took things a bit too far. You got to do things in moderation, especially if you're doing cask strength whiskey. And I see other people just moving on to not necessarily even different types of spirits, but different types of recreations, gummies, and whatnot. I don't know what words I can use for YouTube purposes in that space, so I'll keep that vague. But people are moving on, especially younger generations, going towards things that are 0 calories. We forget there's 100 to 120 calories in every dram of whiskey that we have. Cask strength is going to have even more calories in it than something that's 80, 90 proof. So you are looking at something that's got a hefty amount of calories in it. And I could see people taking a step back for health reasons. Myself here, man, I've gained like 10 pounds this winter. So I know I've got to take a step back here over the next couple months, get back into beach shape or just questionable dad bod shape. One other thing that was discussed is like, is this boom ever going to happen again? Or was this just an era? I think this is just an era. It might be a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades till you see this happen to another generation. It was a very special time to live in, but it is very hard to get the same momentum in the same way. Going back to when the Pappy craze started, and then it went to the Weller craze, and then it went all the way down the line on the Buffalo Trace, and then people started jumping to the other distilleries. But a lot of people ultimately collected everything they wanted to collect over the course of years. And once they filled their bingo card or collected all the Pokemon, they were kind of done. And a lot of those people didn't even open everything. That's why they're, selling things off now. But I do think, similar to one of my other loves, professional wrestling. Professional wrestling was very cyclical as well, based on the stars at the time. Maybe it's just going to be that way, where it's going to take some big brand, some new player, some big release that just goes over the top, causes that craze again, and gets people hunting whiskeys and then re-hunting all the brands or new releases that are on the shelf, say 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So not to say that the bourbon boom is completely over, but maybe we are just seeing a cycle. The one thing I will say about this bourbon boom, yes, I hunt less at stores than I used to. As I said, I haven't purchased a bottle in 2025, but I'm not really ready for the adventure to be over. The whole point of this channel is all about whiskey friends. I want to invest more time in in-person experiences in 2025. If that means buying a few less bottles, hey, so be it. But still, I have to make sure I'm supporting the brands that I want to be around for a while. Those craft distillery brands that maybe aren't as established or worldwide or in as many markets may have a tough time getting through this. So I will be concentrating some of my buying power, supporting those that I do love, because I don't want them to just go away. And then on top of that, also supporting some of the groups around here and the single barrel picks. That'll go a long way as well. I think that is the era that I'm really not ready to let go of. It has been an amazing 4 or 5 year run, particularly in this whiskey tube community of amazing single barrels. I could get by just buying the single barrel picks that float around this community and just be completely happy and just never even go to a liquor store. Now, of course, that's probably self-defeating, and I still want to get into those lotteries. But hey, there's a lot of good whiskey going around, and there's only so much you can get, and I understand that too. But I do want to invest more in in-person experiences, going to meetups, going to festivals. Bourbon on the Banks is going to be one that I definitely want to hit up this year and continue to support the industry as a whole. And I think there's enough whiskey friends out there to keep this party going a bit longer, even if new people aren't entering the market or aren't as wild about hunting things down as they were before. So let me know what you think in the comments on the subject. And oh, wait, the blind pour. Man, I talked and talked and talked, never even got into it here. I am actually really, really confused by this pick, but let me do another sip of here. I think that's finished. I still don't think it's a bourbon. I think it's a wheat whiskey, a finished wheat whiskey. I don't know if I've ever had a wine finished wheat whiskey. Super buttery though. Very, very good pour. I think there's a little bit of a lack of depth, I would say, in this. It is just solid through and through. Man, it's viscous. It's rich though. It's just the flavor profile, not too dynamic, not too much depth there. So that's probably the main thing that I can hold against this one, but very, very delicious pour. All right, one more sip. Oh yeah. If I was grading that one just off the cuff here, somewhere between 81 to an 84. So sits right there at a very good pour. Don't know if I would hunt a bottle though, but let's see what it is. Oh, hey, Copper Wolf. I think this was one of yours. Penelope Rosé Cast. So I've never had that one before. I got to imagine that's 4 grain, though, being it's Penelope. I'll have to look up some stats on that after this. But I guess it would be just a whiskey, though. I don't think it would probably be a bourbon. I'll have to look that up. 114 proof, single barrel, picked by Sealbox. All right. Hey, thank you, Copper Wolf. I know that one's yours. Let me go for one more sip here. Man, it's just that buttery quality that really stands out. Ah, that was fun, though. Fun to explore while also talking about this topic. And I think that's always going to be the thing that keeps me moving. It is fun just to explore new whiskey, especially when you're doing a blind. You just never know what experience you're going to be up for. So once again, let me know what you think of this topic and your reactions to any of the points made in this video. And I'll catch you on the next one.